Hello, hello. I left the party. You guys can have the party. Hi, Maureen. No, have the party. Have fun. And I don't mean that sarcastically. Have fun in the party. But I had to get live. Anyway, I'm going to tell you guys about. I want to take a poll, and I'm going to start a poll now and see how many people know about your real ID and what you can and cannot do without it, okay? Because, yeah, maybe a lot of people thought, oh my gosh, I know all about my real ID. Of course I got my real ID. Well, there's a lot
Maureen.
there's a lot of people that don't know about their real ID. So I'm going to take a poll. Start a poll. Why is that? Okay, hold on. Do you have your real ID? So, do you know what your real ID is? And there's the poll. I'm going to leave the poll up. Hi, Maureen. Hi, Gail. Hi, Linda. You might not know what your real ID is, but on May 7th, good luck. Hi, Sandy Ellens. If you want to get aboard a domestic flight, and I'm sure an international flight as well, good luck if you don't have your real ID. So you might say, okay, well, what does that mean? My license has a little clear spot where it's got my picture and it looks like it's all official and like it can be copied. Yeah. But if it doesn't have a star, like you see this one has a star here, up over here, it's not a real ID. You don't have a real ID. You voted yes by accident, you can change it. You can change it, Hi. Go change your vote so you don't throw off our scientific poll. Hi, Sandy Ellens. Okay, if you do not, now you might say, okay, well, it's simple. It's simple to go get a real ID. It's pretty simple for a guy to get a real ID. That's because a guy usually doesn't have name changes. But if you go with your birth certificate, okay, and you're a woman, and you've been married, or you've been married and you've been divorced and remarried, you need to, it doesn't matter if you were married in 1933 and divorced in 1945 and remarried in 1956, you need to bring all of that paperwork. Your birth certificate, your marriage license, your divorce decree, your new marriage license, and you need to bring that, or they're not going to give you a real ID. And if you don't have a real ID, well, you're not going to get on a flight. Hi, Bucky. So you got a problem. Now, a lot of people thought, okay, well, they're going to phase this out. They're going to give them a break. They're going to give them a deadline. And then there's people now freaking out because their 85-year-old mother doesn't have the things she needs and she has to fly in 3 days and she has to fly in 10, people are freaking out. And she'll be coming back after May 7th, and how will she get back on? So what they have said, that TSA will ask a lot of questions, that you should bring as much documentation as possible. Let's say you're taking off and leaving on the first leg of your journey before May 7th, and you don't have a real ID, you should do whatever you can to try to get a real ID. If you're unable to get a real ID, you should document the entire process. And then when you go to fly back, it will depend on get there early and you'll be put through the paces of answering a lot of questions about your identity and why you don't have a true ID and all of that stuff. You should be able to fly back. But you have to get this. Now, a lot of people said, well, why didn't they say more about this? Why? A lot of people didn't know this. Okay? People say, why, when I renewed my license, didn't they automatically give this to me? Women have a lot of problems. Okay? If you've had your name changed, they want to know, why does your birth certificate say Smith, and now you've brought a marriage license, and your marriage license says Kozlowski? Well, who's Kozlowski? Oh, that's your first husband? Okay. Where's your marriage license from your first husband? Where's your divorce decree? Where's your marriage license? Oh, you have your marriage license from your second husband. That's not good enough. Okay? So, yeah. It's a lot of hoops to jump, especially if you got married in Vegas or you got married, all over the place, not where you live, and you need all this documentation and you don't have it. And then you've got to wait for them to send it. So, May 7th. So they did it. They let it go for 20 years. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous that it's this crazy and hard. If you have a passport, you're okay. If you don't have a real ID, you can use the passport. But some people don't have a passport. Some people haven't thought about this and have to run and go fly somewhere, and they don't have a real ID. So you think, and there's if you look at certain places, they say TSA is going to phase this in. Other places say there's going to be no phase in process. You're going to be SOL. You're going to be trapped where you are. So, you were going on 2020 taking effect. Yeah, this is not good. So, and there's only 50% of you that have this. And it's, okay, High 61's worried about likes. Okay, everybody smash the like so High can concentrate on the, your passport expired. It's $160 or so to renew it for 10 years. But, maybe my son's birth certificate will work. What does that, your son's, it won't work for you though. I don't know what you mean it won't work for you though. Right? It's not going to work for you. But yeah, you gotta, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. You don't know how to change your vote, just vote for just go back and revote. You just hit the other thing and it'll change your vote. My dogs are going crazy because it's snowing outside now. Hold on, I've got to, hey, let's go in the snow. I'll be right there. Just think about your real ID, okay? I think my husband is hallucinating. Okay? He called me before I went live and said there was motion on the camera in the back. So I looked at the back camera and the deck is full of snow. Okay? Now, the dogs wanted to go out. They heard something. So I opened up the side door and let them out. Look at the driveway. The driveway has no snow on it. I just looked in the back on the cameras. There is no snow. I wonder if he was looking at, because our camera keeps tapes of any activity, like the recordings. I wonder if he was looking at something that was older. I don't know what that's scary. Okay. So never mind. All right. So, okay. So, I'm careful. There's no snow. No. The motion, it's from stuff. No, it's motion. I have like wind chimes, and when the wind is heavy, it says that the motion's there. Yeah, if it's an intruder, it records all that and sends it. Okay. So anyway, let's talk about the Real ID. So, Real ID problems. Okay, so the Real ID Act passed in 2005. Why? Because it's to improve the security of state-issued driver's license and identification cards. But it has faced several criticisms and challenges. The primary concern is the potential for creating a national database of personal information, raising privacy issues, and posing a risk of misuse by identity thieves. Additionally, the act has sparked debate about federal overreach into state identification practices and the potential for bureaucratic hurdles and increased cost for both individual and state governments. Okay, so New York has generally been resistant to implementing the Real ID Act, citing concerns about the cost and potential privacy issues. Okay, individuals in New York who plan to board domestic flights or visit federal facilities will need a Real ID compliant license or another accepted form of identification, such as a passport, starting May 7th, 2025. Okay. Now, there are people that are opposing the Real Act, but let's see. Here's frequently asked questions. When will Real ID be enforced? The enforcement date is May 7th, 2025. What happens when this date begins? Federal agencies, including DHS and TSA, may, now listen to me, may, not may, only accept state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards as identification for purposes of accessing federal facilities, including TSA airport security checkpoints. If the license or card was issued by a Real ID compliant state in accordance with the Real ID security standards, meaning the license or card must include the Real ID compliant state marking. Enhanced driver's licenses issued by Washington, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, and Vermont are considered acceptable alternatives to Real ID. Now, see, I don't know this. Let's see what that is, okay? This is important. Enhanced driver's licenses. They're only issued by 5 states: Washington, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, and Vermont. I may have, let me see if I have, because I have all this special stuff on my thing. I just don't have the star. So let me see an enhanced driver's license in New York. Okay. What is the, how do I know if I have one? Do I have one? Do I have one? Okay. To determine if you have an enhanced driver's license, look for an image of the American flag. That's what you were asking, right, Linda? The flag is typically located in the upper right corner. If your ID has the flag, it's an enhanced driver's license. If your ID has a star, it's a real ID. Okay? It says if your ID has neither a flag nor a star, it's a standard New York State driver's license, which is not real ID compliant. Okay. So, be very careful now. And so let me go back to where we were with that other stuff. Are all states issuing real ID compliant cards? Yes, all states, the District of Columbia, and 5 territories are real ID compliant. How do I get a real ID? Visit your state driver's licensing agency website, the Division of Motor Vehicles. Find out exactly what documentation is required. At a minimum, you must provide documentation showing your full legal name, your date of birth, your social security number, and 2 proofs of address of principal residence. States may impose additional requirements, so check with your state driver's license agency website before visiting them in person. Okay, beginning on May 7th, every state and territory resident will need to present a real ID compliant licensed or other acceptable form of identification for accessing federal facilities, entering nuclear power plants, and boarding commercial aircraft. The card itself must be real ID compliant unless the resident is using an alternative acceptable document, such as a passport or a passport card or a state-issued enhanced driver's license. Okay, so, well, minors need to, what happens to travelers? Okay. Okay, so it says, what happens to travelers who show up without a compliant license? Will they be turned away? It says they can expect to face delays, additional screening, and the possibility of not being permitted into the security checkpoint. But what we're finding is that they will answer some questions, they will be questioned, especially if they're on the last leg of a round trip. Okay, let's see. Can states accept electronically submitted copies of source documents from applicants? So I don't know. If you don't know about this, be real ID ready. Deadline May 7th, 2025. Be real ID ready. You know? Let's see what you're saying in the chat. Hold on, because I don't know if you're real ID ready, are you? All right. Slam RN says, I have a passport, then you're all good to go. And you have a real ID, you have the star, then you're great. You're great. Okay, you're good then. You have looked at your driver's license. It has a black star in the right-hand corner, then you're all good. The black star, you should be good. See, you didn't even know that. Maureen, do you have a real ID? You know, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't. It's not good. So check your real ID. This is a public service announcement. And now, my dogs, they're out chasing whatever's around the house. Those are my watchdogs. Hear them? I have the cameras on, and I guess the speakers. Get them. Get them, guys. Enter at your own risk. Okay. So, speaking of that, we're going to talk about the backlash. The judge had to turn off her social media. The judge that lowered the murderer's bond for murdering Austin Metcalf. And then a SWAT was called in on Austin Metcalf's mother's house. It's crazy. They're going nuts tonight. Yeah, they're out there getting something. They heard something, and now, yeah, they're. You hear that? You're hearing the outside, the speakers from my security cameras. They have to secure the area. Okay, no driver's license. You must renew your passport, but I'll also get a real ID. Oh, okay. All right, Maureen, but be careful. Hi, it's just me. All right, so let's talk about the judge first, okay? Okay, so the judge, Angela Tucker from Collin County, faced intense backlash after she lowered Carmelo Anthony's bond from $1 million to $250,000 on Monday. In response to reported threats, the Collin County Sheriff's Office confirmed it has added protective measures for Judge Tucker, with both its own investigators and the FBI looking into the situation. According to authorities, both court staff and concerned citizens alerted officials to threatening messages aimed at the judge. The sheriff's office also stated it is investigating whether anyone illegally shared Judge Tucker's private information online. If the individual responsible is identified, the CCSO said in their statement, potential charges could include unlawful disclosure of a resident's address or telephone number and obstruction or retaliation. The exact nature of the threats remain unclear. Judge Tucker reportedly made her Twitter account private shortly after the hearing, suggesting the online backlash may have played a role. Okay, and let's talk about this SWAT that was called to the victim's family. Okay, so there were fake Twitter accounts, which this happens, posing as the Frisco police chief. They began disseminating fabricated details about the investigation. A fake autopsy report surfaced on Facebook, falsely claiming that drugs were involved. The disinformation continued to spread with fake Instagram screenshots of guns, further fueling anger and uncertainty. While most misinformation posted online is not a crime, impersonating a police officer is. The Frisco Police Department, along with the FBI, is investigating the fake X account that impersonated the police chief. Tracking down the original creators of misinformation is challenging as people post anonymously. The content spreads quickly, and the original posts can be deleted or edited long before anyone figures out who is behind them. So let's see. Dr. Daxton Chip Stewart, a journalism professor at Texas Christian University who specializes in social media and free speech, explained that while the spread of disinformation online isn't new, the recent changes by Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, have, in his opinion, exacerbated the problem. Earlier this year, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg announced the end of the use of fact checkers on their platforms, relying instead on users to flag misinformation through a feature called Community Notes, similar to what the social platform X uses. The official removal of third-party fact checkers on Meta platforms happened earlier this month. The consequences of this disinformation on the fatal Frisco stabbing case have been severe. Both the victim and the suspect's family have had their home addresses posted online and have received threats. Extra security was present at the funeral of Austin Metcalf due to online posts. Okay, so that we know about the misinformation, and then I want to talk about ouch. Okay. Let me go to where I saw this, which was where did I just have my thing on this? This is crazy. Oh, here we go. So, as the defendant was let out on bond, the family of Austin Metcalf is dealing with threats and swatting incidents. Metcalf's mother's home was targeted with a false report claiming someone had been shot in the mouth. She wasn't even home when the police arrived. So that's not good. So they're getting backlash in a lot of different directions, and there's misinformation that's continuing to be spread by YouTube creators, okay, that have made this like something of they've gotten on a soapbox and are literally just defaming the victims in this in order to kind of make up for what they think is injustice. And it's ridiculous because they don't even have proof of what they're saying, and there's so much misinformation, and they're on this soapbox about something. Half of it, not all of it, is based on all of this misinformation that was going out. They're calling the victims, the family, horrible names. It's harassment. It's horrible. And I can't even believe that it is allowed, but it's ridiculous. Okay, so So that the money that was donated to Carmelo Anthony, according to what's coming out, is going to be used to buy them and to buy the family a new home and higher security. The mother of Austin Metcalf was crying in court when Carmelo Anthony's bond was reduced. He's on house arrest. He'll be required to wear an ankle monitor and stay inside his parents' home. Over $420,000 has been donated to Carmelo Anthony's family in an online fundraiser. During the judge's ruling on Monday, the prosecutors asked Anthony's dad why he couldn't use the donated money to pay the original bond to release his son from jail. Andrew Anthony responded that the money was going to be used for his son's legal defense, and he said the cash would be used for security to protect Anthony after he reportedly received racist threats since the stabbing. Anthony also said the family plans to move into a new house for extra safety. Anthony's lawyers insisted the money raised online is not a bond fund and that the family needs the funds to get by because Anthony's dad is currently on leave from his job. The family needs to be able to survive, said the defense attorney Mike Howard. There's been a tremendous amount of pressure, I think, at this point. Living in a gated community, given everything, the safety of their younger children is very warranted. Security details in criminal defense are not cheap. Megan Metcalf, Austin's mom, put her head down and cried when the judge ruled to reduce Anthony's bond on Monday. Anthony's lawyers originally asked prosecutors to reduce his bond to $150,000, saying $1 million was too high because the teenager had never been in trouble before. While prosecutors have charged Anthony with first-degree murder, the alleged killer is insisting he stabbed Austin Metcalf in self-defense. Anthony took out a knife and stabbed Metcalf in the chest during a fight in the stands at the stadium in Frisco, Texas on April 2nd. Okay, Carmelo Anthony was released on the $250,000 bond. He had been in Collin County Jail since he was arrested on April 2nd. He is now on house arrest in his parents' house with an ankle monitor. He is not allowed to use social media. He cannot contact the Metcalf family in any way. He can only leave his house with prior approval from the court, and he must be supervised by a parent at all times. He's required to check in with the judge bailiff every Friday morning, and he will return to jail if he breaks any of the house arrest conditions. According to an arrest report, Carmelo Anthony told a school official that Austin Metcalf put his hands on him. When the police referred to Carmelo Anthony as the alleged suspect, Anthony reportedly said, "I'm not alleged, I did it." Witnesses said Carmelo Anthony told Metcalf, "Touch me and see what happens," after Metcalf told him to leave his seat. Anthony then reached into his bag and stabbed Metcalf in the chest and then took off running, leaving Austin to die in his brother's arms. Carmelo Anthony was stone-faced as he left the court, making a beeline for the car, ignored reporters asking him how the killing could be considered self-defense. His lawyer told reporters outside the courtroom that Anthony acted to defend himself. Every Texan deserves the right to defend themselves when they reasonably fear for their life. Self-defense is a protection that applies to each and every one of us. There are two sides to every story. Prosecutors said, and I say here, this is what I've heard, okay? For reasons unknown, during the hearing, prosecutors argued the murder was not justified. They said for reasons unknown, the defendant brought a knife to a track meet for what probably could have been a fist fight at worst. And this is said by the Collin County First Assistant Attorney Bill Werski. Prosecutors said that Anthony was involved in another altercation in school on February 4th, and that's what I heard. So this wasn't the first time this kid was in trouble. So that's another lie. As of Tuesday morning, the fundraiser for Carmelo Anthony's family has raised $429,857 of its goal of $500,000. The fundraiser has sparked outrage online as people demand the donation page be taken down in respect of the Metcalf family. But it's also a false narrative on that page. And it says that what's being said is not true. So, let's see this. The relatives of the teenager charged with fatally stabbing Austin Metcalf now plan to spend big on a new home and security to shield the alleged killer after his jail release. Carmelo Anthony walked out, flanked by relatives who posted a $250,000 bond after his bond was slashed from $1 million. He's currently under house arrest. Andrew Anthony said the funds would go towards his son's legal defense. He added that the money would also help ensure Anthony's safety, as he allegedly has been receiving racist threats following the stabbing. And they said they intend to relocate to a new home for added security, and that the money collected was not a bond fund. Let's see. The family needs to be able to survive, said defense attorney Mike Howard. There's been a tremendous amount of pressure. I think at this point, living in a gated community, given everything, the safety of their younger children is very warranted. Security details and criminal defense are not cheap. Carmelo Anthony is under a tight watch. The 17-year-old now remains confined to his parents' house. If he breaks a single rule, he goes back to jail. He's allowed to leave the house only with prior permission from the court. In the arrest report, it was mentioned that Carmelo Anthony informed the school official that Metcalf put his hands on him. But when the police labeled Anthony as the suspected perpetrator, he allegedly responded, "I'm not the suspect. I did it. It's not alleged. I did it." There's a fundraiser backlash as of Tuesday morning. The fundraiser has triggered backlash online, with many calling for the page's removal. The judge is facing backlash for lowering the bond. Judge Tucker noted she's never experienced the level of security concerns that have come with this case. She also reminded those present that this was a bond hearing, not a trial. The role of a bond, she said, is to make sure the defendant appears in court and to protect the public. I don't take this lightly at all. I take those things very seriously. There is no replacement for the loss of life or the loss of a child. I don't want the family to think a bond amount is connected to the dignity of loss. You cannot make the person come back. Let me see here. I want to hear more about the trouble the kid was in on February 4th is what I want to hear, because I have heard bits and pieces of it, and until it's confirmed, that was from the prosecutor. But that's all I've heard from the prosecutor. I want to hear some more about that. I want to know why he had a knife on the school grounds. Okay? Stop telling me his father about his grade point average or that he's captain this or captain that. Your son had a knife and your son killed a student. You know, it's ridiculous. I want to hear more about that, about him in trouble. Let me see. Let's see what we got here. They asked about a separate assault involving Anthony on February 4th, which was handled internally by Frisco ISD. Okay, let's hear about this a little bit. Prosecutors who only submitted the police report and no witnesses also questioned Anthony's father during the hearing. And they asked about a separate assault involving Anthony on February 4th, which was handled internally by Frisco ISD. Prosecutors questioned why Anthony's family. So what about that? What did they question him? Also questioned why they weren't using the money donated for the son's bond. We don't have access to the money, Anthony's father responded. During closing arguments, defense attorneys told the judge maintaining the $1 million bond would be unusual considering Anthony's lack of criminal history. They asked the judge to reduce the bond to $150 and require him to wear an ankle monitor. Prosecutors asked the $1 million bond remain in place, telling the judge the amount is standard for murder cases in Collin County. But why are we not hearing more about what was the father's answer about that February 4th assault? Let's see. Let's see. Allegedly involved in. Okay. Well, tell us what happened. Only a couple months back. What was the answer on that? Okay, so let's see. I want to see what they said about this. This is crazy. Trying to see some of the comments here. If somebody knows why okay, so someone said, I think this young man will be convicted by a jury. However, let's see. Let the trial play out. Let all the evidence come out. Then opine on the case. So many are acting like this is the most open and shut case, which it may be. Texas doesn't have a manslaughter statute, and 17-year-olds can't be given life in prison or the death penalty. There is no justification for this. Murder charges, especially under these circumstances, always require remanded to incarceration with no bail, not house arrest. This is absolutely horrendous, despicable, and sickening. Okay. Said the killer was quoted as saying, "Touch me and see what happens. Tell me that wasn't premeditated." Someone said if the reports are true, he pulled out the knife out of his bag before making the comment, premeditation. I'm inclined to wait and see all the facts before reaching a conclusion. see. Killed a boy at a track meet in front of God and everyone else. You think he should have been returned to his nice warm bed instead of a jail cell? Perhaps you should go sit with his twin brother who held him while he died, or with his parents who get to watch his cold-blooded murderer return to the comfort of his home. They'll be living a nightmare the rest of their lives, and he'll be sitting in front of his TV or computer, eating snacks and feeling pretty relaxed. He should be behind bars with the other murder suspects waiting for his time in court. I want to hear about the other trouble he was in. Let me see here. What was his father's question, but I don't see the answer. What was the answer? He was questioned. And what was the answer? Let me see here. Don't see it. I don't see the answer. How do you ask the father the question and you don't get an answer? And nobody's asking about it? Let me see. Okay, hang on a minute. What is this? Okay, let's see. Just don't know. Okay. Let me just see if I can find it. Okay. If anybody has any information on this, it doesn't make sense. I just want to find out what the assault was on February 4th. Is that so hard? If they questioned him about it, why isn't anybody talking about it? He gave an answer to the other thing. Okay, so let's see. They asked about a separate assault, which was handled internally by Frisco ISD. Okay. No, Anthony. Why is no one talking about that? I don't know. Okay, let me see here. I'm going to try one thing more to see if I can find out any answer. Just try another search for this. So annoying. I haven't put that in if you're not even going to put the answer. And why is it not? Everything else is like flying out there. Why is it not known what the other assault was on February 4th? It's pretty pertinent, and it should have been pretty pertinent to having his bail reduced if he already had an assault on February 4th. What was that about? Let me see here. No. Okay, all right, I'm going to go. Where the heck are you guys? Okay, I just made it. Anybody hear about what the other assault is? Hello, White Angel. Has anybody heard what the other assault is? There was another assault that he was asked about on February 4th. Has anybody heard what the other assault is? I wonder. I don't think any of you have. No, you've not heard. Okay, I'm very want to hear what the other assault was. Let me see here. Let me try something over here. There's one other thing I want to see about this. Hold on a moment. Hold on one moment over here. Just 1 second. I can't even believe that. Wow. Oh my gosh. There's a basketball player named Carmelo Anthony, and they're posting in this group about this Carmelo Anthony, the one that murdered Austin Metcalf, that it's his son. That's how insane they are. Oh, good. So there's also wow. These people are on YouTube and they're on Facebook and they are defaming the father of Austin Metcalf and taking another man with that same name and posting atrocious things about him. This is horrible that this is allowed to be done. It's just awful. People are saying, I can't wait till that family sues you for defamation. It's sickening. It's really sickening what's going on. It's a level of harassment that is just unbelievable. They can't deal with the facts of the case. Okay, it's been made something else, and they're going to keep their heels dug in no matter what. Keep saying these lies and fabricating this stuff to make it look at something it's not. Wow. Wow. This stuff is unbelievable. This really is crazy. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Let me see if there's this other thing here. Oh, good. Okay. I want to see if they are going to talk about what they did here. Why can't I want to read the obituary for Austin Matthew Metcalf. It says, with heavy hearts we announce the untimely passing of Austin Matthew Metcalf, a bright, beautiful young soul whose journey was tragically cut short. Born on Tuesday, July 31st of 2007 in Frisco, Texas, to Jeffrey and Megan Metcalf, Austin illuminated the lives of his family and friends with his infectious laughter and gentle spirit. He was a beloved brother to his identical twin and best friend, Hunter Metcalf, whose unwavering love and support will forever echo in the cherished memories they hold dear. From the time he was born, Austin was such a joy. He was one of the most kind-hearted and genuine people. When you met him, you knew he was someone you could count on in your life. He would always be there for anyone and would do anything for them. Along with being someone you could call at any time for anything, he could also make everyone laugh. He was so incredibly funny and outgoing. His spontaneity was amazing, and he could always get a smile out of you. He was a junior at Memorial High School in Frisco, Texas. Austin is a member of Hope Students and attended Hope Fellowship East on Wednesday nights as well as Sunday mornings. At a young age, Austin was fearless in any sport he tried, and his talent would shine through. No matter what sport he tried, he did everything he could to be the best he could be, and his work ethic as he got older never wavered, so he could stay the best. When he found football, it was instantaneous that he knew it was what he wanted to play. He loved that sport with all his heart, and he never gave up on his dream of playing in college, and even farther, if that's where his drive would take him. Austin's second love in life was the Texas outdoors. His many hunting and fishing trips that he went on with his father Jeff and brother Hunter are treasured memories. He had even shot his first hog this year and was extremely proud. Austin was a kind-hearted student, navigating the halls of life with dreams yet to be fully realized. Though his time with us was fleeting, the impact he made in his short years was profound, leaving traces of joy and warmth in every moment shared. As we remember him, we reflect on a life filled with potential, aspirations, and the pure essence of youth. He leaves behind to cherish his memories are his parents, Jeffrey Metcalf and Megan Prawl Metcalf, his best friend in life and birth, identical twin brother Hunter Metcalf, his maternal grandparents, David and Susan Prawl, paternal grandparents, Charles and Vicki Metcalf, Nathan and Jennifer Prawl, maternal uncle and aunt, Ryan and Marley Needham, maternal uncle and aunt, Chad and Laura Metcalf, paternal uncle and aunt, Scott and Crystal Lucas, paternal uncle and aunt, William and Nathan Prawl, cousins, Riley, Mason Needham, cousins, Aiden and Avia Metcalf, cousins, and Scotty Lucas, cousin, along with many extended aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. The circumstances of his passing on April 2nd serve as a solemn reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of each day. We gather together in grief and celebration of Austin's spirits, honoring the love that binds us all. Family and friends are invited to unite in remembrance and reflection in his memorial service that will take place on Saturday, April 12, 2025 at 10 a.m. The gathering will be held at Hope Fellowship, Frisco. Okay, his pallbearers will be Hunter, Jackson, Ryland, Patrick, Jaden, Logan, Carson, and Ryder. Honorary pallbearers are Christian, Beckett, Dylan, Graham, TJ, and Gavin. In this moment of sorrow, we stand together, committed to honoring Austin's memory and supporting each other through the heaviness of loss. May we carry forward his spirit with kindness, compassion, and an appreciation for the moments we share, allowing his legacy to inspire us to love deeply and live fully. In lieu of flowers, his family encourages donation to a scholarship in honor of Austin Metcalf at hopefellowshipchurchcenter.com/giving. Faith that God's got me and my work will pay off. So that's, the life that was taken, and it's like people are losing sight of what's really going on and making it something else and adding in a lot of stuff that is not even true. Okay, let's see this now. Okay, let me see this. So yeah, I wanted to read this. This is something where they said that, see, this was by, I want to find this, Amelia Mugavero, CBS 11, because she has something here about the Frisco ISD, adding that CBS News Texas learned from law enforcement sources involved in the investigation. This is what this reporter says, that Carmelo Anthony had previously been suspended for bringing a knife to school. So I want to see if she has any more information on that, because I saw that. Amila, let me just find her. Mugavero from CBS 11. Okay, let's see here. is this? Okay. Amelia, where did you post that? Let's see, there's 3,000 comments on this. Okay. I just don't see where she posted that. Let me see. I don't know. They say there was another, the prosecutor asked the father about another assault on February 4th, and yet why is that being kept under wraps? I don't get it. And I don't get this woman here. Where is her? Stories. Why are they? Okay, let me see here. I'm going to try one other thing to see if... I just can't believe more people aren't asking about that. It was said in court. Why are people not asking about it? What is the deal with that? Oh my gosh, I'm going like climbing the wall. I want to find out about that. There was another thing that I wanted to tell you about. About this mother and her boyfriend who apparently killed a 3-year-old to make room for a baby of their own. Have you heard this this story? So he was killed. That was Matthew Mason. He was killed on February 18th of 2018 when he's 3 years old. And a Michigan man and woman have been arrested in connection with that 2018 death of the woman's toddler. They're accused of killing the boy because they wanted to make way for a child they planned to have together. Amanda Mason, 33, and Maurice Houle, 28, were arrested on a first-degree murder charge on February 11th. Why all those years later? The investigation began when the boy was found dead in his bed by babysitters in the Port Huron Township, Michigan home. During the pair's arraignment on Monday, St. Clair County Assisting Prosecuting Attorney Joshua Sparling alleged the suspects abused Matthew for years, culminating in his eventual death. The alleged abuse included locking up the child without food and water, suffocating the child with a pillow over his head. Houle and Amanda, that's so weird, I think I went to school with an Amanda Houle, allegedly admitted the abuse to police. Amanda allegedly told police she would hit the child's head against the drywall so forcefully that it would remove the backing of the drywall itself. Sparling alleged in court that the suspects abused and killed Matthew in a bid to make room for a child that the two of them could have together. Following Matthew's murder, Amanda's father and stepmother publicly advocated for an arrest in the case through a Facebook group, Justice for Matthew. They organized campaigns to raise awareness about the case. The fight is far from over. This is just the beginning. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you in Matthew's army. Words cannot fully express the enormous support we feel from all of you, his maternal step-grandmother wrote on Friday on a Facebook post in that group. In addition to the murder charge, Houle has also been charged with assaulting, resisting arrest, injuring an officer. Court records for Amanda did not show her attorney information. Both are being held without bond. Now, questions. Did they have another child? What is that? And why was it so many years before an arrest? This is like crazy that... hold on a minute. Just don't get that. Like what? Oh. Let me see here. Unbelievable. People are just unbelievable. Can't even... Okay. Let's see. Before the hearing, investigators had not publicly released any information gathered regarding Matthew's death. Leading up to the tragic incident, CPS had launched investigations into Matthew's welfare on multiple occasions. The prosecutor asserted that Mason and Houle had admitted to harming Matthew, who allegedly suffered Very cruel, torturous abuse and punishment. We have a young child who was the victim here. This young child, Matthew, suffered years of abuse at the hands of both defendants. Matthew was allegedly forced into timeout periods during which his head was banged into drywall as he kneeled on the ground. Matthew was also allegedly locked in his room for several hours at a time with no food or water. Sparling said Hoole had previously covered the child's face with a pillow and pretended like he was joking. Mason has been accused for trying to conceal the violence inflicted on her son by her and Hoole for years. She allegedly admitted to skipping the child's doctor's appointments to avoid having to explain where his bruises and other injuries came from. The then couple allegedly roped Hoole's mother into their abusive habits, urging her to lie about how Matthew got hurt any time he was left with a visible mark. We came to realize a scheme where both defendants conjured up a lie of previous injuries to the victim, Matthew Mason, and came up with the lie about how the injury occurred prior to talking to investigators, Sparling explained. While discussing the case, Sparling added, on this occasion, he was beaten, I'd say, within an inch of his life. He was murdered that night under the care and guidance of both Maurice and Amanda. Mason and Hoole are due back in court on April 22nd for probable cause conferences. News of their arrests sparked enthusiasm from the community of people who have been demanding justice ever since Matthew died. A Facebook page called Justice for Matthew Mason was flooded with reactions to charges finally being filed. The community is overjoyed at this. We will not back down until the day they are locked behind bars forever and face the ultimate judgment that they truly deserve. Matthew's grandmother, Amy Boone Mason, is an active member on this page. In a statement she shared, she expressed her firm belief that the child was murdered by Hoole and Mason. Mason's brother, Andrew Mason, and his wife, Hillary Mason, are currently serving life in prison for murdering Andrew's 5-year-old daughter, Mackenzie. Oh, my gosh. So her brother and his wife are in prison for life for murdering her brother's 5-year-old daughter in 2015. Oh, my gosh. Andrew and Hillary were also found guilty of brutally beating Andrew's other daughter, who was 3 years old at the time, Michaela. Wow, unbelievable. That is just horrendous. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Crazy people. Just crazy. Have kids and just kill them. Meanwhile, there's other people that can't have kids and want them. It's ridiculous. Apparently, a United Airlines engine went ablaze shortly after takeoff. That's good. Not good. What's airline prices just dropped apparently. Really? A woman's fashion chain, which is what's closing. Forever 21. Forever 21 nears the end. Forever 21 file bankruptcy dance before finally filing on March 16th. They plan to wind down operations at its U.S. stores. Okay, That's a non-thing. A Netflix new thriller series, The Gardener, is finding success. Does anybody know what The Gardener is? They're saying $49 cheap flights to anywhere. If you're looking for a flight, I don't know. Oh, let's see. Okay, so I don't know about what that's around. Let me go back on the other stuff we were looking at. Okay. There was a boy 4 shot himself, and police found 30 snakes and crocodiles in a tank of a bathroom of his home. You heard that one? Belgian teenagers admitted to trafficking insects. They were smuggling in ants. Okay, well, for what reason? And Russell Lafitte, remember Alex Murdaugh's accomplice, pled guilty to multiple charges. The once prominent South Carolina banker has admitted to helping convicted murderer Alex Murdaugh. Remember Lafitte? That was always such an odd name, Lafitte. Uh-oh, where'd you go, Lafitte? He was the former CEO of Palmetto State Bank in South Carolina. He admitted to helping convicted murderer Alex Murdaugh steal millions from clients who had won sizable settlements. Lafitte used his position at the bank to help Murdaugh profit from others' misfortune. Prosecutors will recommend Lafitte be given a 5-year prison sentence and that he pays $3.5 million in restitution. On April 14th, the former CEO pled guilty to 6 federal counts of bank and wire fraud in connection with Murdaugh's sprawling financial scheme to bilk clients out of millions of dollars. In the signed guilty plea agreements filed with prosecutors in federal district court in South Carolina, Lafitte pled guilty to bank fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and bank fraud and misapplication of funds. Under the terms of the agreement, Lafitte would be sentenced to 5 years in federal prison and pay back more than $3.6 million in restitution. He entered his guilty pleas several weeks before the federal trial was set to begin. Lafitte was previously convicted of the same charges in 2022, where he was sentenced to 7 years in prison, but the original conviction was overturned by an appeals court, which ruled Lafitte had not gotten a fair trial because a judge allowed the dismissal of anxious jurors and their replacement with alternates. When Lafitte was sentenced in 2023, U.S. Judge Richard Gurgel said that he was part of an elaborate criminal scheme in which there just wasn't bad judgment, there was complicity, for which he was richly compensated. Lafitte and Murdaugh's victims were extremely vulnerable people. Their family members were victims of horrible tragic events in their lives, death, people widowed, lost their parents, and he treated them like they were players on a chessboard, moving that money around. In Lafitte's 2022 trial, prosecutors laid out how Lafitte used his role as the pet of the bank to help Murdaugh steal millions from his clients. The now disbarred Murdaugh sent settlements meant to be paid out or held in trust for relatives and survivors in wrongful death or personal injury cases to Lafitte, who set up accounts at his bank to house the money which they used for themselves. Two sisters testified how Murdaugh and Lafitte mismanaged the $1 million settlement they received when their mother was killed in a car crash when they were 12 and 8 years old. An FBI accountant testified that Lafitte used $20,000 from one of the sisters' accounts for a swimming pool. Besides that, Lafitte, who served as a conservator for Murdaugh's personal injury clients, extended $355,000 in personal loans for himself and $990,000 in personal loans to Murdaugh from the client funds that were held at the bank. Lafitte still faces state charges in South Carolina and has a trial date set for October. All right. Oh boy. Taylor Swift bought a private island? Private island only cost her $17 million? That doesn't seem a lot for an entire island, does it? Okay, let's see what else we have. Oh, here's a good story. Here, let's have a good story. It's about a dog who went missing and then returned. Let's have a feel-good story. A Louisiana woman has been reunited with her dog 5 years after a hurricane led her to believe they would never see each other again. Debbie LaFleur of Lake Charles. Hey, Lake Charles, that's where Gypsy's former husband lives. Said that her Yorkshire Terrier named Kingston turned up at a frat house at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, several years after his disappearance. We had had Kingston for 6 years by this time. He was part of our lives. He was our baby. In August of 2020, Hurricane Laura changed everything. Though their home was still standing in the aftermath, when she returned, she found a broken window and Kingston was gone. And so we went around the whole neighborhood. Everybody on Facebook was trying to help us locate him, but it was like, we're not going to get him back. Despite their efforts, LaFleur and her husband never saw Kingston again. After 5 years, they accepted they never would, until she got an email from a GPS tracking service, PetLink, in March. After receiving the message, she arranged to make the 4-hour drive to the Kappa Sigma house to retrieve her now 11-year-old dog, who was perfectly healthy. The video shared by USA Today showed Kingston running down a pathway straight into LaFleur's arms as she picked him up and embraced him. We pulled up to the house, and all the guys were outside, and I was at the end of the walkway, and he was at the house, and I just said, "Kingston, come to Mommy," and he took off running, which made my heart burst even more. It was wonderful, wonderful to see him. Kingston has returned to Lake Charles with his family, plus a new brother, a 3-year-old Shih Tzu named Cooper. Okay, so where did the Yorkie stay all that time? Kappa Sigma President Neil Rochelle said that while the organization cannot account for Kingston's whereabouts for the past 5 years, the Yorkie was found outside the frat house front door the morning of March 30th. Kingston lived at the house for about a week, where he became an honorary Kappa Sigma member named Benji. Rochelle said Kappa Sigma Vice President John Christopher is the one responsible for learning that Kingston was microchipped thanks to a trip to the vet. I walk in the house and John says, "He's Kingston." And I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?" And he was like, "No, Benji is Kingston. He's from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and he's been missing for 5 years." The frat brothers had a great time with Benji, taking him to softball games in Walmart until LaFleur got time off to pick him up. I feel like I have a piece of my husband back. LaFleur said of her late husband's best friend returning, though she wished he was still here to witness the reunion. Joseph LaFleur died in a work-related accident in 2022. So the doggy is back. And hold on, just 1 second. I've got to let my doggies back in. Hold on. Okay, so in Jimmy's defense, it is snowing a little bit, and there is now a little bit of snow on the back deck. So, okay. Hi, 61. You have persistence. Hi, Puddin'. Okay, so who's here? Linda, Nightbot. Hi, Nightbot. You always wait for me. Did you guys hear the lovely story about the nice dog? He was found okay. All right, now I want to very quickly, hold on a moment. We're going to change gears. We're going to do something fun. Oh, we have a special. We're going to have a special seller at the auction tomorrow, so don't miss the auction. All right? All right, don't miss the auction. Okay, hang on 1 second. All right. Desi, what are you doing, buddy? All right. All right, let me go to, we're going to change gears here. Okay, let's see what we got here. Trying to find something. Okay, let me look at, I gotta grab we're gonna look at a house. Let me just get the, all right. It's in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Rocky Mount. Oh, that's Rocky Top. I always get this two mixed up. And then people are like, that's Rocky Top. Okay, here you go. There it is. You're going to step into a piece of history with the Mary Thomas Bullock House circa 1901 to stunning 4-bedroom, 2-bath Victorian beauty nestled in the Villa Place Historic District in downtown Rocky Mount. Overflowing with character, it's meticulously maintained, and it blends Queen Anne architectural details with artistic, decorative styling, creating a beautiful lived-in space from the moment you arrive. Okay, this Victorian gem is not to be missed. Da 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 da. Let's take a look. Look at the little baby carriage with the dolls in there. Desi, those are my. What is it, Desi? What you got? Hold on a minute, I gotta see what this is. What do you have? Desi? What you got? Okay, I thought you were eating oranges. Okay, let's see what it's got here. Oh, look at that. That's a, I forget what, Mary Engelbright rug? Is that Mary Engelbright? And who's the other one? Mary Clark? Used to have a paperweight for Mary Clark, but that's Mary Engelbright. Look at that, with the little old-fashioned height chair. And this sink like that. Looks like a dollhouse, doesn't it? It looks like someone's little dollhouse kitchen. And that old-fashioned stove. I wonder if that's the main kitchen. I guess it must be it. Look at that. That's like a screen with a very artistic person. And look at the walls. They're made to look like that. That's an odd kitchen, but I know Linda likes, look at Linda likes that big tassel. Probably she likes those high beds like that. That big bunny on the chair. Hat boxes. Okay, if you never played the game, you have to guess how much you think this is. See, it looks like the kitchen would be like in here. It looked like kind of like a dollhouse kitchen. It reminded me of that. There's a porch swing. Look at the little chair there. It's so cute. Okay, and it looks like a small town America, doesn't it? So how much do you think that is? How much? Let me see and go back to where you guys are. Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Pudding, I've been watching every day. YouTube is messing up. What's Pudding saying? Anybody watching Lori Vallow? Oh, I forgot to tell you about Lori Vallow. Yeah, thank you for that. I did watch Lori Vallow today. There really was not that much going on today. They had a guy with the phones on, and they had the investigator that was on, and she was still doing the cross, and it was weird. She was suggesting that apple juice was to raise her adrenaline or something, and most of the stuff she was asking was being objected to. It was, I wish the jury knew about the children. Well, they kind of asked her something like that. She was going in another direction, and they said, if we go in that direction, they'll have to know about your other court case and all this other stuff if we go on this. And yeah, so no, that was not going to be. But yeah, it really wasn't very eventful today at all. It's really not eventful today. So that's probably why I did watch it. But it really wasn't anything to write home about today. I'll tell you a little bit about it if you want to know, but while you're making up, can somebody please guess the price for this house? While we're waiting, and I'll tell you about Lori Vallow, but can we get a price on this house, please? I'll tell you what happened today, and it's not really much to do with anything. Okay. They were also waiting on another late juror. Yeah. They ended the day early today, just so you know that. Trina K. said she became aware that Larry Woodcock was served with a subpoena in Louisiana and his next of kin victim rights were violated because the subpoena included his address and personal information. Trina asked the judge to seal the subpoena. The judge agreed. Lori says Larry Woodcock was not intended to be subpoenaed and it was an oversight. Trina says the subpoena was signed by the defendant. The judge asked Lori how it was an oversight. She says, I just signed them all. I did not check them. It's my own fault, and I apologize to the family. The judge asked Lori if she just signed a stack of subpoenas or knows who she even subpoenaed. She said she believes she knows. The judge said for the next trial, Lori needs to pay more attention. The judge told Lori he is expecting her not to ask the type of questions to law enforcement as to why the investigation took so long or what was happening with the investigation. If Lori wants to ask those questions, she needs to ask to take a break and speak with the judge. The judge discussed a video that Summer Shiflett and Janice Cox had watched. The state wants testimony about the video precluded from the trial. Lori wants it included. Judge says unless the video comes in and someone lays foundation, witnesses can't testify about what they saw in the video. The judge now reviewed Lori's witness list. First name, Vesia, I can't even pronounce it, Tylee's friend. The judge asked if they have found her. Lori says she needs to check with her investigator. Gabriel Bonilla was the next witness on the list, the former bishop for Charles and Lori. The judge asked if he's been served with a subpoena, and Lori said they have to look it up. Another witness, Ashlyn Rind. Lori said she hasn't been found or served. Gabriel Bonilla has not been served. Lori's unsure if Barry Cox has been served. The judge says she's out of time for these witnesses, as this state is going to rest Thursday or Monday at the latest. Even if they were found and served to testify, the judge needs to know what relevant information they would have for this case. And she asked about Zach Cox and said, he was with my brother Adam Cox on the day of the 11th and had communication with Adam and Charles the day prior to that. The judge asked for more specifics. Trina K. said she spoke with Zach Cox and he had no idea why he would be called as a witness. Jeff White, who's Lori's investigator, comes into the courtroom. The judge asks him if he spoke with Zach Cox about relevant information he could have to the trial. And White says they spoke about his father and about information that's relevant to Charles. The judge asked if Zach's been served with a subpoena. Jeff says, as far as I know. Judge says we will see if he actually gets served and shows up in court. If he doesn't, it's not an issue I need to deal with. If he does, then they would need to see if Zach can even testify. Then the detective, Cassandra Inclan, is back on the stand. And Lori began asking the detective about the chain of custody of Charles's phone. She asked how long from when the investigator left the house to when it went into the computer crimes division. She said about 20 minutes. Lori asked if the detective used the passcode to access the phone. The detective did not. She did not do an exam on the phone. Lori asked about the threatening messages on the phone and if the detective looked at the messages on the phone. Detective said she did not. Lori asked if she was cooperative that whole day. The detective said yes. Lori asked if Tylee was cooperative. I believe so, she said. Lori asked if Alex was cooperative, and she said she doesn't know because she didn't interview or talk with him. Another thing Lori asked is, have you ever seen me where I'm not calm? Lori asked if she ever requested that she turn her phone over. The detective said she did not. She did not ask for Tylee's phone either. And Lori asked if the detective saw the threatening messages from Charles to her, and she says she did not review the reports or downloads from any of the phones. Lori asked the detective if she's aware of the reason Lori had two phones at the time. Did you ask me? No, I wasn't aware you had two phones. Lori asked the detective if she ever learned that Charles stole her phones, so she had to replace them, and that was objected. Lori said, Your Honor, it's all part of the investigation. The judge said the objection from the prosecution is sustained. Lori asked the detective if she's aware that Charles had a $2 million life insurance policy on her. She said she was aware, but she didn't review anything. Lori asked about being taken into 3 different rooms at the police station. And it was explained that they were different interview rooms. Lori asked if they were monitoring the interview rooms, and stuff like that. She was asking if the detective on the stand spoke with Detective Moffat, and she said, he had an interview with Alex. Lori asked if she was aware of a press release that went out from Chandler Police Department. Detective on the stand said she was not aware. Lori asked the detective if she gave input on news releases. She said sometimes, but the public information officer can just release it. Lori asked the detective if she was aware the entire altercation at the house only lasted a few minutes. The detective said that would be a fair assessment. Lori suggested it was less than 2 minutes. Detective said, we discussed that it probably happened in a relatively short amount of time. Didn't talk specifically about the number of minutes. Lori asked the detective if she knew that JJ had autism. She said yes. Then Lori asked if she contacted the school. She said yes, she did. Lori asked the detective if she verified they went to Burger King. She said yes. Lori asked if she's seen the receipt. The detective said no. She asked if she was aware of what they ordered. She said she wasn't aware. Are you aware when people are in stressful situations, it makes you thirsty? And that Lori ordered 2 bottles of water. Trina objected. The judge overrules it. The investigator says it can. Lori asks if when someone is in a fight or flight mode, can they get thirsty? That was objected. The judge sustains it. Lori asks if she was offered apple juice at the station because she had high adrenaline. The detective said she always offers drinks to people who are being interrogated or interviewed. Lori asked the detective if she's ever seen her not calm. That was also an objection. Then there was a technical issue with headphones. And Lori then asked the detective if she was aware that Lori ran outside without shoes. Kind of, yes. The detective said Lori stopped at Walgreens to buy flip-flops. We were shown a video of that, her buying flip-flops. Did you verify that? She said, I did not. That was a different detective. Okay. Lori asks if it would have been difficult to walk JJ to his class on hot pavement without shoes. That was also objected. It was crazy. Lori asked if it was explained to her and Tylee if they could leave at any point. The detective says no. Lori asked if she asked to go to the ladies' room at one point. I believe so. Lori asked if they answered all the questions asked by police. I believe so. Lori asked if it's correct that she voluntarily handed over Charles's phone when asked. The detective said yes. Lori asked if she was ever not cooperative with police, and the detective said she was cooperative. Lori had nothing further. Okay. Then the prosecutor said, you were asked about being calm that day. Had your husband just been shot in your own home with children present? The detective said no. Would it be difficult to compare yourself to the defendant's behavior? And the detective said it would not be a good comparison. So about the death notification the detective attempted to make, the detective said Lori and Tylee were both in a larger van, a 10 to 12 passenger type van, and that the detective says you opened the side door to get into the rear portion, and that she opened the door and was trying to get Lori to come out of the van to speak outside of Tylee's presence. She said she felt it more appropriate if she was about to tell someone a family member died to deliver it to her. Typically, we will try to formulate a plan as to how we're going to tell the children. Lori said, I already know, I was here. The detective was surprised Lori knew, and now they needed to interview Tylee and Lori as witnesses. They asked how old Tylee was, 16 or 17. Detective said Tylee was put in a separate room because you want to interview people separately, because they could be influenced from one person to the other, and you want to them to share their own experience. Okay. The judge proceeds to ask questions of the jury. Why was the rental car ever searched? I believe so, but not sure. If the defendant and the daughter were interviewed as witnesses, why were they left with the victim's advocate? Were they considered victims or witnesses? Detectives said they are employees who can help families with death investigations, although they might not be classified under state laws. Victim services can help families during death investigations. Did Lori express concerns about police talking with Tylee at the time of the interview? She did not. Does law enforcement have to advise interviewers that they're being audio or video recorded? They do not. There is no expectation of privacy at a police station. Okay, and then the back was when they had the guy on about Detective Werther begins talking about mapping GPS cell phone data, and it was talking about when the 911 call was placed. And it was placed at 8:36. Police were on scene at 8:41 to 8:42. Lori was seen on body camera at the scene at 8:48. And this was all before he went to Burger King to request the surveillance footage. Werther said the timeline didn't make sense. The fact that Lori could leave the house, go to Burger King, drive 7 miles to JJ's school, and then drive back in about 12 minutes given the traffic. Werther asked Burger King to see the live view of the surveillance. He checked to make sure the date and timestamp was accurate. It was correct. Werther watched the video and saw Lori Vallow go through the drive-thru in a red rental car at 7:54 a.m. Werther was concerned because the 911 call was made at 8:36, yet Lori was in the Burger King drive-thru at 7:54. Lori told investigators she left the house right after Charles was shot. Werther asked Burger King for a receipt from Lori's purchase. And they showed that receipt, which was here. And you're supposed to still have the, she got a 10-piece chicken nuggets, 9-piece chicken fries, a value Sprite, and a bottled water. And sausage. She says 2 bottled waters, but it says bottled water. Unless that's for 2. Okay. Werther was originally told Lori went to the CVS to get flip-flops. He tried to get video, but couldn't find any. He extracted GPS from Charles's cell phone. There was video that was shown. Werther went to 7 CVS stores, so he decided to call Walgreens. He gave a general description of Lori, what she purchased. Werther then went to Walgreens and did get the surveillance footage and a receipt for Lori's purchase. Then there was a receipt from Walgreens. It shows 2 pair of flip-flops were purchased. Trina moves to admit the evidence, the cell phone records, data points. Werther reviewed cell phone tower data from Lori's T-Mobile phone activity. Let's see. Then they went to lunch. They're back. There was a witness, Detective Nathan Duncan, who was supposed to testify but went home sick. And he was going to be the last witness. So that's why they ended early. Extraction was done on 3 phones. And he talked about that. The 911 call again was at 8:36 a.m. The last outgoing communication from Charles's phone was 7:37. A text message between 7:37 and 7:49. The phone was in the general area of the house at 7:50. The device leaves the area at 7:52. Alex calls Lori's phone. And then you see Charles's iPhone near Burger King at 7:52 and 7:56. And then you see Lori in the drive-thru at Burger King. And then the receipt matched the time through the drive-thru. The vehicle left at 7:56. Alex called Lori at 8:06 a.m. The phone then went to Walgreens, arrives at 8:16. It was at the store for a while. Then the phone gets to Lawrence Life Academy at 8:17 to 8:33 a.m. Charles's phone then goes south between 8:33 and 8:35. Alex calls 911 at 8:35. And that call came into dispatch at 8:36. The report was a shooting. At 8:49, Charles's phone was moving south and arrived in the neighborhood. They now saw the police body camera footage at 8:48 of Lori and Tylee showing up at the scene. Charles's phone was back on scene at this time. Charles's phone movement in the noon hour, the device was on the move. Lori's device was also in the same area. Okay, so how the heck did that happen, right? If Tylee was supposed to be there when he was shot and came out with a baseball bat when Tylee arrived after the fact. So Werther, let's see, Charles's iPhone returns to the house at 2:43 to 3:11 p.m. Werther did not look at any other days. That was the only day he researched because that was what they were concerned about, the timeline. Lori began by asking the report where they're completed. Lori says that there are some interesting contrasting things in the report. She made a note of his daily text message of love and devotion to me. Do you remember that? He didn't remember that. But then you also made a note of interactions with other women he was trying to date. This is when he kept objecting to stuff. She was talking about him dating. They kept saying, no, this isn't, relevant. Let's see. Lori asked Werther if he went to Lawrence Life Academy at any point. He did not. Lori asked if he was able to identify JJ in the front seat of the car at Burger King. Said, I wouldn't say that I could identify him. He wrote juvenile passenger with short brown hair. Then Werther said that when the redirect says what he was trying to figure out, does it appear that this device, as I had been told, had been traveling with Miss Vallow, or does it appear not to be the case? Werther says the device clearly departed the scene well before the 911 call. Either the shooting happened much later than we were told, or the device and the person bearing it, Ms. Vallow, left well before the 911 call was made. Okay, so, and then they're in recess until tomorrow, and that was that. Now, please, will you please have a price of that house? Who has a price of that house? Did anybody put the price of that house? Nobody? Hi said $750. Victoria said $500K. Seriously, Elle, you don't have a price for that house? It's just me. You don't have a price for that house that I showed you? You did 500K. Okay, I'm going to put the price in. Pudding. Nobody wants to play that. Okay. 249.9. That's oh, you just ran, you didn't put a price in on the house. That's a long time to be gone, Al. That was like I went over the whole day of that Lori Vallow thing. Okay. Um okay, let's see where this is. Okay. Desi, what are you doing? Come on. Hold on, I'm trying to get an address here. Where the heck is the address on this? Address. Okay, let me get this address. We're going to Thompsonville, Alabama. Okay, and yeah. Oopsie, hold on. Okay, you ready? All right, here we go. Come on. Okay, let me tell you. Oh, shoot, come on. This is a gorgeous colonial beauty, so much historic charm blended with modern updates. Convenient location near downtown for shopping, restaurants, churches. Is a stunning home. Has a generous floor plan with 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths on 2.5 acres. Okay, so let's take a look. It's in, what did I say, Thompsonville, Alabama. Look, there's little doggies. There's two little doggies in there. Look at that, they have a planner all over the wall there. Lots of games. They have a lot of wood circles. They must really heat their home, and they've got that vacuum, I guess, to clean up that wood. Captain America in there, huh? Mario on the wall. Where did C go? They moved everything. The bed's gone from this person's room. And this person's room. Okay. How much on that house, guys? How much is that house? Two and a half acres. Let me go back. Desi, what are you doing? Victoria says 300K. Al says 275K. You love the wooden floors in the fireplace. Hi, Murder of Crows. Desi, what are you doing? Victoria doesn't like the colors. Puddin', what's going on? You gonna put a guess in? Murder of Crows says 200,000. I guess not, and I guess not, so we'll just go to the word game since we'll go to the word game. Tomorrow's the auction. We're having a special seller. I haven't even looked at anything you guys put down, so I know that's bad. I did it all by myself, all by myself. Okay. Okay. Now you guys are not going to play Where's Murder of Crows. Murder of Crows isn't going to play with me anymore. Up spray. Let's see. Nope. I'll try it again. Up spray. Nope. Good try. You're still here, Spur? Oh, Spur. Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Victoria. Papyrus, that's what it is. Yes, very good. We got it, we got it. You're welcome for going over Vallow. It really was not that eventful, but it's okay. That's what we're here for, right? Okay, let's see. What do you got? Annual? Yeah, annual. That's good. Annul. Annul? Hold on a minute. No. And here we go. And try. Wait, I can't see. My eyes are not processing. Try. Hold on a minute. I need my glasses. I can't see. Okay, allay. Okay. Okay, that's one. And then the other one was. Okay, that wasn't in one. Okay. No, that's not one either. Okay. Oh, there you go. Very good there. Rid of crows and it's just me. Okay, 8. I thought I had 8, didn't I? Oh no. Very good. Okay, what else? Ahead, okay. Right, uh-oh. Very good. Very good. Okay. Nice. 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 Sweetheart. Okay, I think I'm going to go to bed because I have a big day tomorrow. I have to get a lot of things done and I've got a lot of work to do. I love you guys. God bless. Prayers. And we'll see you tomorrow for the auction, I hope, and then after for a true crime. All right? Be good. See you later. Hold on. I don't know where this is streaming. Here it is. Okay, bye, guys. Be good. Love you.